Hi, my name is Brian Haugstead, and today we're continuing our study in the book of Kings. We're going to be looking at 1 Kings chapters 12 through 14. In our last study, Solomon has just died, and he passes the throne to his son Rehoboam. And a man named Jeroboam comes and pleads with Rehoboam, saying, Solomon made things really terrible for the people, and the people are really upset. Make our yoke lighter. And Rehoboam decides to go and seek counsel about this. So he seeks some elders' opinions, and they tell him, yeah, the people are upset, things don't look good here. Why don't you make their load lighter? Then he goes and gets a second opinion. He goes and asks some of his buddies, and they give him very different advice. They say, tell them that your little finger is thicker than Solomon's whole loin, and that where he used whips, you're going to use scorpions. Jeroboam goes and delivers the second advice he's given. He gives this news to Israel, and they are not happy. And in response to this, Rehoboam sends out the chief of forced labor, the slavery chief, to them. And we're told that all of Israel comes out and they stone this man to death. That's 1 Kings 12, 10, and 11. At this point in time, the tribes divide. Israel splits in two. And we have the northern kingdoms, which are now collectively referred to as Israel. There are 10 tribes in Israel. And the southern kingdoms, which are 2 tribes referred to as Judah. So the tribes have divided. It has finally happened immediately after Solomon's death. Rehoboam is now over the southern tribes, and Jeroboam is over the northern tribes. And Jeroboam, he sees an obvious problem that's coming. The temple is in Judah. It's down in the southern kingdom. When all the people from the 10 tribes in the north want to offer sacrifices and do all the things they need to do at the temple, they're going to go down to the land of Judah. And it's not going to work. If they're really going to be divided, the people need a place to worship in the northern kingdoms. And so Jeroboam takes it upon himself to build some shrines. We're told he sets up shrines at Bethel and at Dan. And he does a common mistake of creating golden calves and sticking them in these places to be worshipped. As well, we're told he assigns non-Levitical priests. Now, we need to jump back to Exodus to really understand what's going on here. Moses leads the Exodus from Israel. He goes up Mount Sinai and receives the law. He comes down and the tribes are worshiping golden calves. And this, in biblical standards, is the ultimate rejection of Yahweh. They're worshiping a different idol. They have made a different god. The golden calf has massive representation in Scripture. But at that time of Moses, the Levites, they go and they wipe out 3,000 people who made the golden calf. They cleanse the nation, and God gives them the right to be priests. So what just happened with Jeroboam is he set up false idol worshiping spots, and then he took away the people that God made priests so that they could deal with this issue. So things do not look hopeful or good for these nations. Now, chapter 12 ends and chapter 13 begins, and we have this strange story in chapter 13. There's an unnamed prophet that comes, and he speaks out against Jeroboam. And Jeroboam doesn't like this. He stretches out his hand and says, seize him, and his hand withers. And he realizes, my golden calves can't do anything to fix this. And he asks the unnamed prophet to pray to his God that his hand be restored. And the unnamed prophet does. He prays to Yahweh, and his hand is restored. And this prophet announces the coming of Josiah, who is going to come and turn the nation back to Yahweh. So we have this prophecy about who is coming. And then there's this really strange section after this, where this unnamed prophet is found on the road by another prophet, or a person proclaiming themselves to be a prophet at least, and told, come to my house and have dinner with me. But the unnamed prophet was given explicit instructions by God not to stop and eat, to give this message and come home. But the new prophet says, oh, don't worry about that. I've been given new messages. It's okay. Yahweh's cool with it. And so he goes to this man's house, and then this new prophet is like, ha, I got you. And he says, you're going to die because you failed to follow the instructions of Yahweh. And the man leaves, and he's killed by an animal just out in the city limits there. And the kings and the people see him laying out there. This prophet who has just called to Yahweh and restored the king's hand is now dead in the streets for failing to follow Yahweh. Chapter 14 begins, and we jump back to Jeroboam. And Jeroboam's son Abijah has become very sick. And Jeroboam has kind of messed things up with all the prophets and the people of Yahweh who could actually do something about this. And so he and his wife come up with a ruse. His wife's going to get in this elaborate disguise and go to the prophet, and the prophet's not going to know and is going to help their son. Or the wife gets all disguised and goes to Ahijah. And Ahijah is a prophet that actually prophesied about the coming fall of Israel. And God warns Ahijah about what's going on. And so the wife shows up at Ahijah's house, and rather than this ruse working, Ahijah says, "Welcome!" And he welcomes her in and calls her out by name. And he tells her, "Your son is going to die the moment you go back home. And everyone who belongs to Jeroboam who dies in the city is going to be eaten by dogs." That's 1 Kings 14:10 and 1 Kings 14:12. Now he warns her, God is going to cut off the house of Jeroboam. God is not happy. She returns home, and just as he said, those things happen. And at chapter 14:21, we switch back to Rehoboam and Judah. And Judah's not doing good. In 1 Kings 14:22, it says, Judah did evil in the sight of the Lord and provoked him to more jealousy than all their fathers had done with all the sins that they were committing. We're told they put up high places, that they built altars, that there were cult male prostitutes running around in the town. And this section ends with Rehoboam dying and his son Abijah taking his place. But just before Rehoboam's death, we're told that the king of Egypt comes and strips the temple of Yahweh. It took one generation from Solomon to complete the temple and for the temple to be stripped. That's where we are.